And so why do we want to have that unit turning every year?
Yeah.
Let's find some residents who want to make this their home and will be here for several years and then maybe graduate to buying a home. I mean, how
Yeah.
wonderful would that be?
Yeah.
So, the best way to make money, in my opinion, is to keep those residents happy
Yeah.
and keep them in place, assuming that they're paying their rent on time
Yeah.
and all of those things.
Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Caleb David, for the Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered podcast, where we are creating space and building community and getting information disseminated throughout the world as much as we possibly can in the subject of commercial real estate. Today, I'm really excited to have our guest with us. Cheryl Yatka is the founder and principal of Quiet River Real Estate Investments. With over 25 years of experience in real estate, asset management, and hospitality, she now focuses on acquiring and repositioning workforce and affordable housing communities across Ohio, Alabama, and other strategically selected markets. Cheryl, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit. We always like to get a little bit of background in because commercial real estate is a weird place to end up, right? Unless you grew up around the business, it's foreign to so many people. So maybe tell us how your journey unfolded to where you are today.
Sure. So way long time ago, I started working in hotels. The first one was in Akron, Ohio, a downtown city hotel that needed lots of love and care given to it. It no longer exists the way it did back then.
Yeah.
And through that, I made my way out to Arizona, where I worked for Miraval Resort, which is an all-inclusive resort, which was amazing. You could
Yeah.
wear yoga pants to work.
Tucson's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. It was on a lot of acreage. It was a very unique hospitality outlet. It was only for adults.
Mm.
It had crazy things like climbing a pole and standing on it and jumping off, hikes through the woods where there was free range cattle, all of
Wow.
those kind of outdoor adventure, one of the world's best spas ever. So a really good experience for me out there. Came back to, so 2008 happened. So it basically laid myself off and came back to Ohio, which is where I'm from. And I was here for a couple years, and my dad and I were flipping houses together, which was, it's great when you work with family.
Yeah.
The time. And that wasn't my real estate niche. I'm an operations girl at heart. And so I found a job and I was there for 13 and a half years, almost 14 years. And in that time, it was affordable housing company. And when I started, they were in 8 states at about 10,000 units. And by the time I went over to the commercial side, the dark side, that affordable side had grown to 30,000 units in 26 states.
Wow.
So it multiplied exponentially on that side. And in those months leading up to the commercial side of the business, my boss basically said, "You're the only one who has a hotel experience, and I want to buy this building in downtown Cleveland that has 57-story office building, 1 million square feet, a 400 key hotel, and a 982 stall parking garage." And he said, do you want to learn how to be an asset manager? And I said, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I want to try to do that? Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that was really, from start to finish, probably the best 7 years that I've had in terms of a learning experience.
Yeah.
And the mind shift that you have to make from operations to how owners view assets.
Yes.
Luckily for me, my owner was a huge hospitality person. And so first and foremost was the tenant that was in there and the guests that were there. And so that meshed really well.
Yeah.
And because my whole background's in operations, it made it easier for me to identify when we were going to have, the operating team and the ownership team doing this with one another, button heads with each other. And so you're having to be really creative in order to get where the owner wanted to go, but allowing the operations team to do it in such a way that didn't feel as cumbersome as maybe.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because I literally just got off a phone call with a local restaurant
Mhm.
that their building burned down several months ago. It was an arson. Like the go-to spot. It's been an institution here for close to 20 years. They're
Oh,
stuck in this limbo. And so we're kind of like trying to find solutions and find another option for them. So we
yeah.
just came up with an idea from another failed restaurant that has been
Mhm.
in this one location over and over and over again.
Mhm.
It's been a steakhouse, it's been a sports bar, it's been a real estate office, it's been a bank, it's been all these things. And the
Right.
thing that I was talking to my client about is, this could be a good opportunity because you are a good operator. And I
Mhm.
think there's so much to be said about good operators. And, you know, a good buyer is not necessarily a good operator.
100%.
And so, why do you think that operators think fundamentally different in situations like this?
Well, I think that the majority of owners don't necessarily make their way up the ladder,
Hmm.
right? From a bellman to a general manager,
Yeah.
let's say. They may, so as an example, my owner did. He went
Mhm.
from, working at the bar to owning restaurants. That was how he made his way through college,
Yeah.
right? And then he bought his first apartment buildings that, was a fourplex and a 10plex. And he was actually the janitor and the
Hmm.
housekeeper and the maintenance tech and all of those things. So luckily for me, there was an operational piece, but when there's not, and sometimes it's a REIT, sometimes
Yeah.
it could be an equity partner, it could be a lot of different owners who have just never operated a hotel, an
Yeah.
office building, a parking
Yeah.
garage. And they think that things can happen very, very quickly, that you can change directions very, very
Yeah.
quickly. And that really can throw off an operations team. And you can see a decrease in NOI for a month or two if you don't allow them to be a part of the conversation.
Correct.
And that's the biggest part for me when I am managing, whether it's my own projects or I'm in on another deal where I'm asset managing that deal. Really important for that communication to happen because I
Yeah.
know what happens when it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
It'd
it's
be
it's it's
disaster.
uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
And we happen to be in the building that I was
Mm.
asset managing, and I happen to live 5 minutes away. So I basically lived there for about 7.5 years. And so that I think that was hard for the operators too. We
Hmm.
had three different management companies that
Yeah.
I was responsible to oversee,
Yeah.
uh, and an owner who had very high expectations.
Yeah. So when we talk about asset management, the way I think about it is essentially a property manager,
Mhm.
but you just mentioned something about working with three different management companies.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, so I'm kind of curious about to learn more about that.
Sure. So in our company, asset managers were responsible for, on the affordable side, they were responsible for a portfolio of affordable products. And they worked with the regional managers, the vice president of that area, the property managers. If they started seeing numbers go in a way that wasn't consistent with the budget
Hmm.
or started to look strange as things were going on, they would have monthly phone calls. Is it a lead issue? Is it a maintenance issue? Is it, are we having to evict people? Tell
Right.
me what's going on. And then
Yeah.
those asset managers worked with the regional team and the property manager to really course correct,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or reforecast. And we did a lot of reforecasting in the hotel.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's probably, in our case, it was lucky for them because we were forecasting more revenue,
Yeah.
uh, and not less revenue until
Yeah.
COVID. But so that's how we work. So I
Yeah.
was responsible, as an example, Marriott Management was managing the hotel when it was acquired.
Yep.
And so essentially I was managing
The
for
management company.
the Marriott Management. If we're like one hotel and they have 1 million, right?
Right.
And we're like, oh, we don't know if we like the chef. So, that was extremely interesting to say the least, just trying
Yeah.
to get those management companies to move in the direction that we had planned.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I
we,
always find, from my world being in the brokerage side of thing, the
right.
importance of having the conversations. And I'm dealing with a lease right now, at the exact same similar situation.
Yeah.
It's a property management company do a lot of work for. We refer
Mhm.
business to each other. So we
Mhm.
know how we work together. So when this new client came on, it was like, oh, this wasn't easy. We were like, okay, we're already on the same team.
Right.
we need to understand your goals. And so I think for if anybody listening, that if you are a commercial broker, you need to be building the relationships and communication with the property manager, the asset manager, so that the ownership understands the full picture for sure. And so how does an owner operator mindset allow you to manage or to manufacture more predictable returns? You kind of talked about the reforecasting here a few minutes ago
Right.
through disciplined operations rather than just kind of relying on, market appreciation or whatever.
Right, for sure. So we had about 20 different investors in this project. It was a very large raise and
Yeah.
a large dollar amount for the three of them together.
Yeah.
And my responsibility was to stay in touch with those investors. They really, really liked me when I
Mhm.
was sending them a check, and my boss was old school and they got a check in the mail, right?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
the letter, they probably were like, they threw that away and I got my check. Things changed during COVID, and so it became a
Mhm.
different relationship. But for our investors during the good years and the years after COVID, it was, I didn't just meet with those teams once a month like a typical hotel asset
Mhm.
manager does, or a typical office tower asset manager does. I would see them every day,
Right.
and I would say to the property manager in the tower, I'm like, hey, we're gonna have some puppies that are gonna be in the lobby on the marble floor. They're gonna be up for adoption. So just so you know. And they had been so institutionalized, right, for
Right.
so long. And it was a little bit of culture shock, to
Yes.
hear the owner wants to have puppies that are gonna be, and so we really had to learn how to communicate with one another. And those very special things we did helped increase the value of those buildings
Yeah.
significantly.
Well,
And
not
the
to mention the
level,
visibility that you're getting.
100%. And they because it was so centrally located in Cleveland, and we created a beautiful outdoor area, those things just made it so much more attractive to come and visit, which then meant the leasing became easier as a
Yes.
beautiful A-class building that has all of these new amenities: sushi, a coffee shop, seating areas, Wi-Fi, outdoor, the
Hmm.
hotel next door that had just been renovated, a new restaurant in the hotel, a fitness center, a spa. So we kind of made this huge package,
Yeah.
and it increased the hotel's occupancy over the course of time between 2 and 3%, depending on the year.
Yeah.
So that in Cleveland is a nice number to see.
Okay.
And our ADR just climbed the entire time that we were there. We
Yeah.
we hit our 5-year NOI mark in year 3 in the hotel.
Yeah.
And all of that together just created this amazing place for people who were in the office market.
Yeah.
They wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely. It's the experience, right? It's the feel. It's the because I think, 2008 happened, COVID happened, and market's been tough the last 3 years, right?
yes,
And so I find that the owners and managers that can see beyond the institutionalized past and look, where are the trends going? What is people's behavior? What
right,
are they looking for?
right.
Is a massive the office properties that are making changes and creating more flexible space and
Mhm.
meeting rooms and just that whole experience. It definitely does. Yeah, there's an increase. You've got to spend some money, you
Sure.
know but I next question is kind of like, how can real estate investors successfully acquire, reposition, and operate workforce and affordable housing while generating good returns, right, but also having a lasting impact on the community? And that last sentence is what stood out to me, is that it's not just about capitalism, right? Like, it is the how do we create lasting community impact?
Right. And so my company, that's our space that we stay in right now, is the affordable workforce housing space.
Yeah.
We're not doing project-based Section 8 right now. We will accept the housing choice vouchers in our communities. I have seen some of the worst of the worst
Mm.
affordable housing properties, and I've seen some of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And it's my opinion that everybody deserves a home that they can be proud to live in.
Yeah.
They're going to have marble countertops and beautiful tiled bathrooms. No, it's not.
Right.
But it's going to be very well maintained. Is it going to stay clean? Are they going to receive the best customer service that they can? The lawns will be manicured. There'll be pretty flowers outside
Mhm.
so that it feels like it's a part of the community and that they're not something separate or something
Yeah.
different than the
Yes.
rest of the folks that live around there. And I just think that it's so important to do that.
Yeah.
Um, because there is no different, we're
Yeah.
all human,
Yeah.
and you can have a class A property in the middle of Miami
Yeah.
and probably have more complaints from those residents than you do in a workforce housing scenario.
Fair.
And housing right now, in the country, the last stat that I saw was that we're 7 million units short of affordable housing. And
Wow.
in my mind, multiply that by 3 or 4 because it's usually a family.
Right.
So 28 million people who can't afford to find a place that they're proud to live in. And what
Yeah.
happens is they start living in single family homes or duplexes or the smaller multifamily where the owner doesn't necessarily care about maintaining it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I find that to be
It's
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm this is kind of off script a little bit today, but what are some thoughts or ideas or solutions that you think would help solve some of this? Obviously, we can't solve you and I can't solve this problem,
Right.
but what are some steps in the right direction? Is
Sure.
it legislation? Is it, local involvement and speaking up? What are some ways that you see to be effective?
All of it, quite honestly.
Okay.
I think there has to be more private public relationships that are built. There are areas, so for example, where I live, the county that I live in, there isn't a land bank and it's very rural, and a
Hmm.
land bank would help developers immensely to put in brand new affordable housing product. And they can't do it right now because they can't make it pencil,
Right.
and so having a land bank would be hugely helpful in the county that I live in.
Yeah.
Rural development is making some strides on the rural development side. The larger cities or the tertiary cities, so Cleveland as an example, they do have a land bank and they do have opportunity zones, which is helpful
Yeah.
to get developers and investors to invest in
Yeah.
those areas.
Yeah.
And I think that both local and state level governments need to be willing to work with developers who, one, can get a deal done,
Hmm.
and two, who have the passion for it,
Yeah.
and three, will maintain it the way it should be maintained.
Yeah. Well, I think another factor that comes to mind too is just, development costs, obviously opportunity zones. Well, there's some, different tax breaks and things that can help with that. But like, we're seeing, I mean, land listings that I have are just sitting on the market because development costs and regulation, for better or for worse, and just the cost to build and to develop
Right.
makes it feel so out of reach that, in that sector, especially affordable housing, I'm like, gosh, we need to get some hope, right? And
For sure.
get
For
some,
sure.
because I think a lot of people that I work with, developers or owners, like it really is, they just want to get their check in the mail. And so for me to find someone like you guys that are actually trying to make a lasting impact in the community for housing as well as hospitality, I really commend that, and I appreciate you sticking in that fight, because I know it's a hard fight. I come from a social justice background, the nonprofit
Okay.
sector. That
Right.
has been 20 years. And so that informs how I do business. But in traditional commercial real estate, I'm sure you would agree that is not the norm.
It's not. But there are some really good companies, several if right here in Ohio, who do ground up affordable housing, and they utilize the low income tax credits, and
Hmm.
they use both federal and state, but they're very, very, very competitive. And
Hmm.
so you might be able to buy a piece of land, but you're holding that land for a considerable amount of time before you can even start the infrastructure that needs to go in
Yeah.
to build that particular building.
Yeah.
And so that one, while it is affordable, it's not the lower end of the affordability. It
Yeah.
still has to pencil at a little bit higher end of that.
Yeah.
We do take vouchers, which I think is fantastic, but it is hard. I'm looking at a deal right now that needs approximately $500,000 worth of work underground, the
Oof.
pipes and the sewers. And, the city just kind of looks at me and I look at them and I'm like, do you want to participate, or
Right.
do we
Right.
want to continue to look like this? So everybody has to be willing to play.
Yeah.
And I also feel like the administrators, the county commissioners, the mayors and so forth, you hear a lot about the fact that there isn't enough affordable housing.
Yeah.
And I'm using Ohio as a general example, I'm using the county that I live in as a general example, but yet there's no action
Right.
to help developers or to help people who want to buy an existing apartment community and renovate it, but still keep it affordable.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of programs out here to help us do that.
Right.
And so, like I said, people unfortunately live in homes that probably aren't the best for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that just the element of treating people with dignity and respect, and we're in such a divided time and have been for years now, that I find it does not make it any easier to have these conversations and to foster
Right.
communication and
Mhm.
get people to the table. So for me, I try to do that in my world, in my circle. What
Yes.
is it that I can do? And I think so often people forget that commercial real estate isn't just about transactions. It's not just about the penciling either. It is
Right.
about, like you'd mentioned, the county commissioners, the local politics, the
Mhm.
regional building department, the zoning,
Right.
the planning commission. Like, this is a bit of a beast.
It is. And I can tell you that I've had probably 20 conversations around this very small project here in my county, and I'm not done yet. I'm
Mhm.
not done. I'm
Yeah.
committed to it. I will
Yeah.
figure out a path to get there
Yeah.
because it breaks my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that kind of leads me into, you kind of talk about commercial real estate is ultimately a people business. So what are some of the things, how do you see that play out in residents, in tenants, different things
Mhm.
like that? So, how do you, and then obviously whoever's operating their team culture, because that affects a lot of things. I don't know that I've ever talked to an asset manager that is talking about this. So
Right.
how do you see it being a people business and how what you do touches people's lives?
So first and foremost, I do believe that it starts with the owner and setting the expectation very clearly
Mm.
as it relates to how residents are going to be treated or how office tenants are going to be treated. The very big old institutional office buildings, they felt like great big banks, all marble and stone and nothing comfy in them, right? And you would
Yeah.
have security walk around in a circle and never look at anybody or say hello to anybody. And those things have to change. They have to
Mhm.
change from the office space, learning how a hotel greets their customers, right?
Mhm.
Learning how the hotel expects what they want before they know that they want it.
Yeah.
All of those things can transition from one asset to another.
Yeah.
When you're talking about where people live, and if you can hear, there's thunder outside. When it relates to where people live, it's so much more important that they
Mhm.
know that they are respected, that we care about not only them, but we care about the property itself. So if I'm walking a property, I'm not going to walk by trash. I'm
Right.
going to pick up. And if I'm interviewing a property management company and the vice president and the regional manager and the property manager are there to talk to me and they're walking, by trash and not picking it up, that tells me right away what their they're worried about getting this deal as
Yes.
opposed to worried about the residents who live here.
Yes.
And of course, everybody has to make money.
Yeah.
It's not even about that. We can make money and make a nice return, but still provide excellent customer service to those
Yeah.
residents.
Yeah.
And it's where they live. So
Right.
that should be the minimal expectation, is that you're going to get to know your residents by
Yeah.
name. They're not a unit number. And life happens.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to let everything slide by,
Right.
but at least there needs to be a conversation before we just
Yeah.
immediately write that
Yeah.
off.
There's conversation, there's a little bit of compassion, there's
Right.
setting expectations. And how do you see those as you've turned some of these properties around? How have you seen that relationship building translate into greater NOI?
So for the properties that I've done this with, it's a matter of that respect really translates over to everything. So they tend to be less hard on the asset itself,
Hmm.
right? So they see you working on the asset, making the apartments better. The hallways look pretty. The common areas have nice seating. It's inviting.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's a new pavilion outside, and they see you wanting to make improvements, and they see the staff with a smile on their face,
Yeah.
the best way to have an apartment run is to keep those residents there, to
Right.
not have so much turnover, right?
Yeah.
That turnover can be expensive. And so why do we want to have that unit turning every year?
Yeah.
Let's find some residents who want to make this their home and will be here for several years and then maybe graduate to buying a home. I mean, how
Yeah.
wonderful would that be?
Yeah.
So, the best way to make money, in my opinion, is to keep those residents happy
Yeah.
and keep them in place, assuming that they're paying their rent on time
Yeah.
and all of those things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. Well,
yeah.
how does Quiet River's approach kind of align with, my core philosophy, which is also my company's core philosophy of creating space and building community?
So it's important that where I have communities or that I'm going to be having communities, that there is local outreach. So working with some of the nonprofits that are in the area, Cleveland has a lot of nonprofits that you can work with that will bring services to the actual
Mm,
building. So maybe it's GED classes that will
yeah.
come to the building. Perhaps it's some like United Way might come in to do a fundraiser, but they're allowing the residents to kind of work it, and then they get the ice cream and they do all of the things, and it makes
Yeah.
them feel really good. And creating space for the community to come and visit,
Mm,
right? You don't want it to feel any different than any other
yeah.
building, apartment building, or home in the area. You want it to be very welcoming, and you want to work with the city, right?
Hmm.
I think unfortunately cities, and especially here in my county, some of the villages have this preconceived notion of what affordable and workforce housing is.
Hmm.
And it's really working for them. It's working with them to understand that there's really not a huge difference. It might mean doing some more inspections in some
Yeah.
apartments, but that's, again, class
Yeah.
A, lots of complaining,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's really not that different. And as an owner, if you're taking care of the asset,
Yeah.
the residents tend to do the
Yeah.
same.
And I find that bleeds over into brokerage as well because I can have the best Class A building to
Mhm,
lease up, the most shiny, the most pretty, but the
mhm.
ownership is a pain to work with. They're
Yes.
nickel and diming, they're doing this, but then
Mhm.
those tenants also, can be the higher maintenance or well, we're paying more money, we deserve more attention,
Right.
so it's such but then if I go into Class B, Class C stuff,
Mhm.
people tend to appreciate it more
Right.
and
Right.
I think that's a huge way. Well, you've been got 25 plus years in this industry. What are some leadership core values or beliefs or philosophies that you've touched on some of them, but if
Sure.
there's anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, I think integrity is huge. And like you had mentioned, you have to be honest with everybody that you're working with,
Hmm.
right? So when I work with brokers in buying a property, I usually tell them, just tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Let's figure out the number and not waste anybody's time,
Yeah.
right? So integrity is huge with me, making sure that the people that I work with on my team
Hmm.
have that same integrity and have the same belief system of taking care of people
Yeah.
comes first
Yeah.
and business expenses come second.
Yeah.
Like we will always do the right thing,
Yeah.
but it takes a
Yeah.
lot of tenacity and the ability to move quickly and then slowly and then turn around and go the other direction.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to work in that kind of
Yeah.
system,
Be
depending on.
nimble. Yeah.
Exactly, because deals can go sideways very quickly. And if you really want that deal, you're going to figure out a way to turn it back
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So those things are just hugely important to me and my business partners.
Yeah. So, last question I have for you right now is what is one piece of unfiltered advice you would give to an investor or sponsor seeking to build a sustainable long-term real estate portfolio?
I would say get to know the people that you're working with,
Hmm.
create that relationship. I'm very blessed to have investors that now I've worked with for several years who also invest in the affordable space. And so they know me, they know
Yeah.
my team, and they know what they can expect from me.
Yeah.
I think that even if you have a very good relationship with the general partner who's bringing you the deal as the sponsor or as the investor, do your
Yeah.
own homework and make sure that you're looking at the numbers just as closely. You're asking all the questions.
Yes.
And as a managing partner, I should be ready, willing, and able to answer, be transparent through that
Yes.
process. And
Yeah.
so everybody has to do their due diligence.
Yeah. And I really like that you say that because I'm training two new brokers right now. And one of them, we helped get me get building under contract. And I said them before we got under contract, I'm like, you're going to go to a Title 101 class. And then
Hmm.
when we get the title work, I can't tell you how many brokers just push send, forward,
Hmm.
send.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
not educating, they're not walking through
Right.
their clients of something that we should be fully aware of.
That's
And
right.
always double checking the number when I get a lease from an attorney, from a
Mhm.
landlord's attorney. I'm going back through that and I'm rereading all of that.
Oh, of course. You
And
have to.
but you you would think that should be the norm, but in my
It,
industry that is not.
it is not. That's very true. I have actually received a lease that supposedly came back with changes, but was the very initial lease that we started with 4 renditions ago. And if we had gone with that, like if nobody had looked at that, it
Right.
was so tenant friendly,
Yeah.
right? That it was over the top. And it was probably a mistake. We're just going to say it was a mistake.
Sure. Sure.
But you have to read everything. You can't
Yeah.
let it
There-
slip
There's
by.
a certain level of vigilance I think that we have to have because I
Mhm.
think the roles that we're in are very entrusted roles. And I
Agreed.
think like you talked about integrity, like how
Mhm.
important that is. And that's how we bring the value. That's how those same investors, those same building owners come back
Mhm.
when they are ready. Like you
Right.
said earlier, they know how you operate. They know
Hmm.
what to expect. And I think that's pretty phenomenal. So for our listeners or an investor, how do they
Hmm.
connect with you? What are ways they can partner with you? And if you're passionate about affordable housing, there's something you can do to help and reach out to
Yes,
Cheryl. What are some ways that people can connect or invest or anything like that?
for sure. So I'm definitely all over LinkedIn. So you can find me out there on LinkedIn under Cheryl Yatka, as well as Quiet River Real Estate Investments. And then, of course, my website, there's an investor tab and there's a contact me tab. My own podcast is coming out soon.
All right,
So
congrats.
thank you. It's called the Quiet River Table, and it's really
Love
an
it.
invitation to pull up a chair and have a conversation,
Love
which
it.
I'm really excited about. As soon as you find me on any of those socials, the phone number's all over the place. So just pick up
Awesome.
the phone and call me. I can talk forever about it. If you have one question, I can answer it for you.
Love it.
So I'm pretty open.
Love that. Well, I love the name of your podcast.
Oh,
The
thank
last
you.
nonprofit that I ran was actually called the Table Initiative,
Oh,
which is
there you
about
go.
getting people around the table, having a
That's right.
meal, talking
Right.
about issues. They're not
Right.
issues, they're people.
That's
And just
right.
going back to
That's
we are
right.
in the people business, and we'll make
Mhm.
sure that all of your contact information is in the show notes. So, you
Great.
guys, thank you for listening, Cheryl. This has been just such a pleasure to connect with somebody in this industry with the same heart and mindset.
I
And
appreciate
wish you
that.
best of luck on your podcast. Can't wait to listen.
Great.
And so, you guys that are out there, go follow her podcast as soon as it comes out. Hopefully, you guys have been taking notes. If not, feel free to reach out to us while we
Yes.
continue to create space and build community. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. If today's episode gave you valuable commercial real estate insights, subscribe, rate, and share it. Connect with me and the David Commercial Real Estate team through the show notes. Remember, real estate is more than buildings, it's about building community. See you next time.